and welcome. Today's guest is a neuroscientist and clinical psychologist who has dedicated her life to advancing the treatment of trauma, grief, and stress-related disorders. She is the Global Director of Research and Curriculum Development for Havening Techniques and the CEO of Dr. Kate Truitt and Associates, the Trauma Counseling Center, and the Amy Research Foundation, which is a nonprofit focused on advancing the role of brain science in psychotherapy. In 2014, she founded Viva Excellence to provide cutting-edge trainings and seminars that bring together the newest advancements in the fields of neuroscience, resiliency, stress, and trauma treatments. A renowned researcher, she is an expert on brain health during the recovery process, treatment outcomes, and psychophysiology. She's the author of the forthcoming books, Breathe and Healing in Your Hands, Harnessing Neuroplasticity to Heal the Past, Create the Present, and Build the Future. Please welcome Dr. Kate Truitt. Wow, you are a powerhouse. What a trailblazer and an industry leader. It is an honor and a privilege to have you here with us today.
Well, and I could say the exact same about you, Ellie. So thank you for having me. And I'm really excited to have this experience with you today.
What does trauma mean?
So from a neuroscience point of view, a stressful or traumatic experience will fundamentally shift the way our brain is making sense of the world. It links into core brain areas, particularly the thalamus, the amygdala, the hippocampus, which then have downstream effects on the rest of the way our brain is making sense of the world. And as a psychologist, we're taught that trauma is post-traumatic stress disorder, which means it's what happens after the traumatic experience. And so one of the things that my teams and I work really hard to do is to reconcile those two experiences to create the Thrive state and to recognize that every traumatic experience has opportunity, possibilities, and empowerment built into it. And that in of itself changes the neuroscience of the traumatic or stressful experience into one that the entire or the whole brain can start to make sense of.
How do you help someone in the middle of that downward spiral of negative self-talk? How do you help them stop the madness?
Yeah, and I love that. How do we help them stop the madness? And, I think one of the most important things in all of that is that's so human. It doesn't matter how much we know about brains or therapy or psychology. That's a very human thing that we all do. And I'll be honest, I still do it to this day, even as somebody who specializes in this, because it is the brain ultimately going back to that idea of trying to keep us safe. So our default mode is those behaviors that we have learned help us survive and function day to day. And as we grow up, become adults, we have expectations and pressures. Those coping mechanisms may not serve us the way we want them to, and they can start to feel maddening, shameful, guilt-inducing, crazy, so to speak. I know, and I know, Ellie, you know this. I lived with PTSD quite some time for myself, and crazy was a litany that went through my head, like, I am crazy. So the first step in creating space is that separation of this is me, my thinking brain, me as I know myself, has this conscious, motivated drive to create a way of being. And my amygdala, who we lovingly call Amy the amygdala, who is a fierce maternal protector, steps in to ensure we stay alive, to ensure we keep breathing. And sometimes Amy responds and reacts to things in ways that do not align with me, what I really, really want. And that framework of this is my brain working diligently, desperately, because it can feel desperate when we're in the madness, desperately to keep me alive. And separating that from, and I am on my healing recovery journey. So Amy's working hard. How do I turn towards Amy with love, acceptance, understanding, even compassion? How do I understand why she's working as hard as she is? Where has she learned that she has to work this hard to escape or disconnect from this world? Because it is working hard when we do the easy button. It doesn't feel that way, but it is working hard because we are shifting the things away from what self wants. So how do we acknowledge that and connect into that? And that space between the two, Amy and self, starts to create a way to stop the madness and lean into empowerment. It brings curiosity and opportunity on board.
I love that. I love the notion of having this dialogue, right? Having the grace, but also having the dialogue and the separation and the literal separation of being able to understand, oh, that's Amy, my amygdala. And that's separate from, different from the conscious me that is choosing what I want my life to look like right now. It's the who am I, what do I want now versus, well, I've been alive and our brain's been wired like this for, thousands of years. And it's done a really good job of keeping me alive each and every moment of each and every day because here I am.
Amen.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's an amazing reframe. I love the visual notion of separating them, and that separation allows the space. And I also think you said something that's really important that the audience can implement, and that's the curiosity, to approach it with curiosity. And that curiosity also creates space. It creates possibility. It removes the blame and the guilt and shame and judgment and all the things because you're just being curious.
Yeah. Well, and there's two cognitive paradigms that our brain is hardwired to do that we can actually harness for good, although they, in the therapeutic space, can feel like they get in their way. One is our brain is designed to have a negativity bias. We are hardwired to look for hard things. Now, in the 21st century, that doesn't feel like it serves us. But if we contextually, to your point of millions of years, go back to the grasslands of I'm walking down a path and a bush starts shaking, we want a negativity bias because we want our brain to go, there could be a lion, tiger, or bear in that bush. Then that is designed to keep us alive. But in the 21st century, it's much trickier. But if we harness that negativity bias along with another bias called the confirmation bias, our brain loves to be right. Now, in rumination, anxiety, and depression, what happens is our brain starts going, what if? What if the end of the world? What if this happens? What if they reject me? What if? And that's negativity bias and confirmation bias connecting. And then we actually, which is stunning, we get dopamine dumps. The more we think of hard things, our brain's going, you're right, that could happen too. And that could happen too. Oh, and the sky is definitely going to fall. Definitely. And we're getting rewarded neurobiologically for all of those thoughts. And so instead, if we go, wait a minute, Amy, high five negativity bias, you are on alert for the shaking bush. Awesome. And guess what? Confirmation bias, we're safe. We start to balance the two out. We're honoring the brain's negativity bias, which is organic, and then we're harnessing the power of the confirmation bias to change and shift the way our brain is functioning and showing up.
Yeah. So let's talk about the technique that you use, havening, and how that factors in to your work and how it transforms a client's journey through recovery and building resistance.
Yeah. So havening is a newer neuroscience-based modality kind of in the space of psychotherapy. And it grew out of tapping or EFT as well as EMDR as a psychosensory modality. The thing that's unique about havening is it harnesses positive or mindful touch to create electrochemical shifts in the brain. And where it becomes a incredibly powerful tool is in the fact that positive touch, self-applied, has been shown to increase oxytocin, decrease blood pressure, increase heart rate variability, decrease cortisol across the board, and that even doing singular sessions of havening on acutely traumatic experiences or even distressing moments in the day-to-day life has sustained positive changes. And here's the thing, we carry the capacity for touch in our own hands. And so it's really filling in a unique space in the psychotherapeutic community for being able to downregulate the system. And the other thing that it does, and it's the only modality that does this specifically, is it works directly with the amygdala. So the scientific term for the havening techniques is the amygdala depotentiation technique. And it's delinking these traumatic experiences or stressful experiences that have resulted in these less than preferable behaviors, easy button, I'm crazy, all of those harmful thoughts that we think are actually tied to something called stress-induced structural plasticity. And it's a type of neuroplasticity that's cortisol and norepinephrine driven that changes our brain. And havening is the only thing I've seen that directly interacts with that to de-link those neural freeways. So we don't stay in that, oh, I'm just stupid, I'm so stupid. We can actually de-link it and go, actually, Amy was doing a great job and strong work, brain, you kept me alive. And what if I was actually pretty good at this? Or what if I was strong, or whatever it might be? So we can use neuroplasticity with havening in a way that I've never seen before. And it's really exciting. It's a new tool on the market. I say that, we call it a tool. It's an integrative experience. And it does really change the game for how we work with trauma and stress.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that it's applying self-touch, and really you have your hands, and so you're able to do it. And that ties in so beautifully with being able to bring this to people anywhere in the world, to allow them to heal themselves or to regulate themselves. So what a powerful tool. Can you walk us through a short process, or give us an example so that the audience can really see what does this look like?
Absolutely. So two of my favorite regulating tools that I teach everywhere, you find it on our YouTube channel, on the TikTok channel, are the CPR for the amygdala, which stands for Creating Personal Resilience for the Amygdala, and the Creating Possibilities Protocol, which originally came out of my EMDR work all the way back in the mid-2000s, but I've since tailored to align with the neuroplastic opportunities of havening. So CPR for the amygdala is all about wrapping bubble wrap around Amy when she's having a hard time, when she's feeling reactive and struggling to connect into the space to create a different choice. The nice thing and the exciting thing about CPR for the amygdala is that when we're in a moment of emotional reactivity and we use CPR for the amygdala, we're actually creating an electrochemical experience in our brain that will soften whatever's become triggered or active in that moment and make it less likely to show up again in our future. That's part of creating the present and building the future. So first, let's step back to the mechanism of havening is the havening touch, which has 4 different specific motions. So one is palm on palm. So at the beginning of the pandemic, when everybody was washing their hands and singing songs, as you'll see in just a moment, Ellie, they were actually doing palm havening and CPR for the amygdala. So this is one motion, and this engages little fibers in our skin. This is the second motion. I call this a havening hug. It's just kind of a gentle, slow movement. And so you're giving yourself a nice hug, but it's moving because we want to, again, engage specific receptors in our skin. And then finally, the last 2 movements are across the brow. If you've ever had a stress headache, then you might be familiar with this motion. and right under the eyes, circling around the cheekbones. The havening touches, these 4 motions, engage mechanoreceptors in our skin that create a slower brainwave state in our brain. So it actually enhances the power or the presence of a slow brainwave state. There's 2, one called theta and one called delta. When we're in a moment of agitation or anxiety or reactivity, it can feel like our brain's going really fast. That's a gamma or a hyper gamma wave. And we're literally creating the opposite wave through using these touches. Then we want to, with CPR for the amygdala, make sure that Amy can't start building those negativity bias, confirmation bias stories. We're changing her narrative by giving her a different job. And one of the easiest versions of giving her a different job is counting breath. As we know, breathing is one of Amy's core jobs. Keep breathing, we got you. And so we'll invite clients to breathe into a count of 4 and exhale to a count of 6 and apply the havening touch while they're counting the numbers as they breathe in and as they exhale. And on our YouTube channel, we have a whole bunch of guided exercises for this. The idea is we want to make sure that we're intentionally giving our thinking brain a new job to distract Amy from building her own fearful narratives and stories. And oxygenating the brain and the body, since Amy wants to make sure we keep breathing, is a beautiful hack for that. So we're letting our body know, oh, I have oxygen, I'm okay. While calming the brain down into oh, I can be grounded and I'm okay. So just as breath work regulates the heart, CPR for the amygdala regulates the brain and the heart.
That is such a powerful technique, and it is definitely something that anyone can do. The 4 touch movements, we all know how to wash our hands, as you say. We all know how to give ourselves a hug. And anyone who has had a stress headache or a tension headache or has had sinus pressure,
yeah, right?
we are familiar with those movements. So how empowering that we're already equipped with the tools that we need. Yeah, and that it's the touch and it's the breathing, both of which we know how to do. So empowering. I love that you shared that with us. We've talked a lot about ways that we can navigate when we've been triggered or through our healing process. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the importance of self-care so that you have the reserves within you. You have a nice full cup and you are able to make the choices, able to be present, able to really step into the creation mode instead of just reactive mode.
Yeah.
So what is your self-care practice?
Oh, good question. I'm very lucky to live my purpose, but the downside of that is there's very blurry boundaries, and maybe you could relate to this between me, purpose, and then when am I working and when am I taking the space for myself? But my self-care practice is highly defined by a couple critical factors. One of the things that we teach all of our patients is a resilient brain care program. And I do use this program in my day-to-day life every day. And it is so empowering because it enhances my awareness of who I am and why my amygdala is doing wackadoodle things, because my Amy can be wacky. And how do I choose to harness the wacky and turn it into something that's useful and utilitarian? So in the morning, it's a simple wake up. I wake up same time every single day to the best of my ability. The time change recently has been a little tricky. But waking up and asking myself, how do I feel as I wake up? Because Amy doesn't sleep as we sleep. She processes. And so if there's disturbed sleep or nightmares, that will show up and carry through into our day. And so if we wake up on the wrong side of the bed, that's actually neurobiologically factual, that's real.
Mhm.
And so I'd like to do a scale of 0 to 10. 0 is like, I feel ready to conquer the day. And 10 is, oh, this is a bad day. This is not going to be good. And if I'm above a 2 on that scale, then I do that CPR for the amygdala. I help my brain calm down. I oxygenate. I do my breath work. And I always drink water because we all naturally wake up dehydrated. So big glass, 8 ounces first thing in the morning. You'll be amazed at the impact of that. It's so positive. Before the coffee, preferably, which is also good. And then I asked myself, what energy do I need for today? And it might be, I need to be grounded. I mean, I need to be energized. I need to be inquisitive or curious, depending on the requests of the day. And then I do that creating possibilities. How do I bring that energy forward? What does it look like to embody that? And then anytime throughout the day, if I notice my mental state shifting, because I've anchored that creating possibilities protocol, and you can find the whole protocol on our YouTube channel, because I've anchored that, our brain holds on to learning for many, many hours. We can just circle back and go, oh, I remember what that felt like this morning, and bring it back, building that neural pathway. And then at the end of the day, we do a review. How was the day? Is there any stress that's continuing to linger? Anything that might impact my sleep? If there is, check in a little bit more CPR for the amygdala, let Amy know she can let it go. And then transitioning into the night. How do I want to feel tonight? Is this a date night or is this a relaxation night? Is my amygdala going, that was a really hard day and I want to push the easy button night? Oh, is this an easy button night? Or is this a, hey, let's work on building the new easy button if we're still new in the journey? Or if things are really hard, because when things are really hard, we go back to default mode, whatever that might be. But it's always leaning in and also holding space for the fact that my brain's had a journey, and loving my brain for the fact that I'm here breathing right now. And so if I have a reaction, if I have agitation, if I have a human moment, which we all have, going, okay, well, my brain's made it to this point. That's okay. And how do I love my brain so that we can continue doing the things that really matter and being the person that I want to be?
Powerful self-care practices.
It takes literally 7 minutes a day.
Yeah.
That's
7 minutes a day.
7 minutes a day.
Yeah. And you can fly through all of that. Your check-in process, walking through the things that you've shared. 7 minutes a day. We all have that.
7 minutes. Yeah.
Earlier you mentioned that, newsflash, you're human. You have, you yourself can have moments, right, of fear or doubt or overwhelm or the imposter syndrome or whatever the case may be, right? We all have moments in this human journey that we're on. And you mentioned that you use havening on yourself. What else do you do to get yourself out of those brief moments of fear or shame or guilt or self-doubt or judgment and back into alignment?
Oh, there's so many things. There's so many moments. Hence, newsflash, being human. Some of the quicker hacks that I really love, and Andrew Huberman has really brought forward this idea of a sigh breath, which is a very simple breathing exercise that has been shown to downregulate the heart very rapidly. And I always wrap the havening touch around everything. But even doing the sigh breath practice without the havening touch is very powerful. And what that looks like is a single inhale. And then before we exhale, we inhale again on top of the initial inhale, and then do a slow, gentle exhale. And what the research has shown is that doing that breathing pattern for just 1 minute calms the heart rate exponentially, which again invites our thinking brain back online. And so I use that as another distraction technique in any moment of reactivity. I do a lot of self-awareness, compassion work. And then the other thing, the other protocol I mentioned earlier, which is that creating possibilities protocol, is harnessing the opportunity for curiosity, the confirmation bias, and literally doing a Google search of how can I feel differently in any given moment? And I probably do this 60 times a day, where if I'm noticing I'm getting pulled by a fictitious tiger in a bush, maybe an email that came in or a text message or whatever it might be, I lean into how would I like to or prefer to respond to this stimuli? And then I inquire, what if I was in that preferred feeling state? And I always welcome that in with the havening touch, and I say it 5 times. And then the protocol itself goes from what if I was to can I be? So a deepening exploration of can I be in this feeling state with this message, which invites Amy to share any concerns or hesitations she has, because sometimes we do get stimuli that does have a threat or a stress element to it. And we go, Amy, can we feel this way? And as we explore that, can I be, she will pop up with any concerns or worries. And then we can move into, in the next 5 seconds, will I be? And again, deepening the curiosity with Amy. So you're hearing the building of the relationship between self and Amy. And then finally moving into, oh, actually, I am whatever my preferred feeling state is before I move into action. And for those of us who have, slightly more reactive brains, and I would say, especially living in the stress of the pandemic, 2020 to 2022 now, a lot of our nervous systems have what we call a smaller window of tolerance. And the creating possibilities protocol is a very easy way to capture a natural bias or 2 natural biases, like we talked about earlier, Ellie, that our brain does, and then apply the havening touch to neurobiologically build new neural freeways with intention and deepen our relationship with Amy. And the more we do that, this is the really exciting part, the more our brain learns to do that organically so that it becomes an immediate checkpoint when a stressful stimulus arises. And same thing with CPR for the amygdala. The more we practice CPR for the amygdala, the more our brain learns, hey, I'm going to breathe when I'm noticing reactivity, and then I'm going to inquire, well, what if? How can I be differently? Can I be different? Can I do something else? Which creates choice.
I love those 4 questions. It's a progression of 4 simple questions.
Yeah.
Again, that's something that anyone can do. Anyone can walk through this process of simply asking themselves 4 simple questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's incredibly powerful and so accessible. And you've mentioned your YouTube channel. And so I want to make sure that we are providing everyone with the direction of where they can go to watch these tutorials, to watch the guided meditations, to learn these techniques that you are sharing. So where can they go to find that?
So our YouTube channel is Dr. Kate Truitt. And then we recently started a TikTok channel back in October, which has kind of taken off, which has been really exciting. And the entire premise of the TikTok channel is to put knowledge into people's hands. And so that is a space where anybody can come in and ask a question. And then once a day, I respond to a question through a video format, which then also helps guide the content on the YouTube channel, which releases a psychoeducational video 1 a week, as well as a guided therapeutic exercise on every Sunday. And so the entire, it's so much fun. And the entire premise is how do we quite literally put healing into people's hands? Because and part of it's a very personal mission. I reflect on myself as a child, growing up in the 80s, and therapy just wasn't a thing, especially in the Midwest, and how, wow, my life would have been different. I wouldn't change anything about my life. I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't had the moments I had. And what if we can give access and knowledge and share this so that people know that they literally have the capacity to create and build the world they want to live in and become empowered by what they've been through.
I love that. And I love that you are putting it on TikTok and YouTube, that these are free resources that are available to anyone with internet. So no matter where you are or what your financial situation is or what your life circumstances are, right there on your cell phone, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you have the ability to go and watch the videos, to haven along with the videos, to have these guided exercises. So literally, there is an entire treatment universe of all of your videos that are out and free and available and accessible to all. That's incredible.
Yep. That's the mission. Let's put ourselves out of business.
You don't find too many people that say, let's put ourselves out of business. I love that. I love that this is truly your mission and your purpose, and that you step into it fully and heed the call and stay aligned. Now, you have a couple of books coming out. We talked a little bit, just touched on Breathe. Let's talk a little bit about Healing in Your Hands. Tell us more about that.
Basically, Ellie, everything that we've been talking about. It's a book that will guide the reader through a personal experience of moving into deep intentional relationship with Amy, of really understanding how their unique amygdala has worked across the course of their life to keep them safe and to help them survive, and to phoenix up, so to speak. How can they harness the empowerment from all of these old experiences that have happened in the past and bring them forward in a new way that serves who they want to be today? And it is designed in many respects to be a companion book to Breathe, which is my own personal story of trauma to resiliency. And the two work symbiotically, hand in hand, of here's how we understand our brain and the wackadoodle things that brains do. And here's how we learn to love ourselves and our brain with intention.
I love that. So we talked a little bit about how people can find your videos on your YouTube and your TikTok. How else can people get in contact with you? How can they find you? How can they learn more about the work that you do and about Amy Foundation and just all the things?
All the things. So obviously we have our website, drtruitt.com is my clinical team. We're based in California, and so we do provide services throughout California. So going to that website, we release monthly blogs on there, highlight different psychoeducational components that enhance the work on the YouTube channel. Additionally, we have an Instagram account where it's more psychoeducationally based, traditional Instagram. I partner with Echo, which is a wonderful nonprofit out here in California, to provide self-healing workshops several times a year. They're virtual, so they can be attended anywhere, and they're for both the community as well as for clinicians to learn the foundations of havening, especially the self-havening components. And so that's if you go to, I think it's echotraining.org. And the proceeds of that training goes to helping families in need who are struggling with difficulties within the family systems in order to help families raise up and stay together. It's a really beautiful, powerful organization. I'm very honored to work with them. So I highly recommend checking out those workshops. And then if clinicians want to learn more, if we have healers on the in our audience, you can go to PESI.org or PESI.org/havening. I just did a one-day workshop with them, or we have a bunch of advanced trainings where you get to get into the really nitty-gritty, clinical, powerful side of havening on how to integrate this into clinical care and really enhance the work that you're doing with your patients. It's a great bolt-on to all traditional psychotherapy models, because we're just saying, here's neuroscience.
Yeah.
Let's use that to enhance the work you're already doing. And I think those are the primary ways. And then we have all the shareware on YouTube and TikTok and the books coming out.
So many ways, all of which are impactful. So everything that you're doing, whether it's the shareware on YouTube and TikTok, whether it's the seminars and the workshops that you are teaching for patients and also for practitioners, the deeper dives for the practitioners and the healers out there, for the work that you do with the various nonprofits, with your own nonprofit that you so brilliantly helm. All the things, beautiful and impactful, and run out and connect with her. Take advantage of this. There are very few experts who give you all of this content for free, who give you the videos, who teach you how to heal yourself for free. So this is an invaluable resource. Definitely check it out, spread the word, and be able to heal yourself. I love this. I love this. So Dr. Kate, before we sign off today, do you have any parting words or anything you would like to share with the audience?
I think the takeaway is, when our brain does things and then we feel shame or self-judgment, we criticize ourselves, remember that the thing that's leading to those less than preferable feelings, that the thing that happened, was really your brain doing its best to love you in the way it was taught. Our brain is always trying to serve us. Amy is always trying to serve us. And honor that and love that. High five it. Because as soon as we go, got it, high five, then immediately space opens up and we can shift. And that's the hub of it all.
High five, Amy.
High five.
You're doing awesome. You're doing the thing.
You're doing the thing. And now let's learn how to do something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. I know you are exceptionally busy, and I am honored and grateful that you are here sharing these resources with us, sharing these tools with us, sharing your wisdom and your expertise with us, and sharing your life, your mission, your purpose, and your legacy with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Right back at you. Thank you.
Till next time.
Yes.